Bruins suffer their first loss of the 2022-23 season, a 7-5 defeat at the hands of the Ottawa Senators. I'm Conor Ryan of BostonSportsJournal.com, here to give you just a couple of takeaways from Boston's loss to Ottawa on Tuesday night. And I think the first main takeaway from this one has to be what we kind of all saw played out there on the ice. I mean, you can look at the fact that the Bruins were coming into the second leg of a back-to-back slate. You can talk about tired legs. You can talk about the fact that they didn't get their best goaltending, which was definitely the case. I mean, Jeremy Swayman was not chopping this one, especially early on. A few of those early goals you really like to have back there if you're the Bruins. But I mean, let's face it, when you watch over the span of that entire 60-minute game, the number one issue had to have been just the overall defensive structure of this team, which really wasn't there. I mean, after the game, Jim Montgomery talked about the fact that the checking game was more or less non-existent, and just the details, the layers, all those things that even when the Bruins are struggling, even when they have to play their B game, the one thing that usually doesn't stray away from this team is that layered defense, that responsibility to protect the net front, to make things tougher on the opponent. That just wasn't there tonight. When you look at just the number of either bad pinches, missed reads, just lapses in the D zone that led to a number of grade A chances where Ottawa Senators plays were either unaccounted for or had quality ice to kind of set up and fire off a grade A shot. And it leads to a game you have tonight, a 7-5 final, which, you can give the Bruins credit. I mean, the one thing that has not been an issue with this team so far this year has been scoring. They're averaging over 5 goals per game now. You're having not only are the big guns doing their part, David Pastrnak has a 3-point night. Pastrnak, Patrice Bergeron has 3 points. Jake DeBrusk has 2 assists, but also you're seeing other guys continue to contribute as well. I mean, you're looking at AJ Greer, who scored 2 goals over his first 47 games up the NHL. Now has 3 goals in 4 games with the Bruins. Encouraging to see. Nick Foligno, I know he's a maligned figure for most Bruins fans in terms of, where his spot is in the lineup, but so far so good in terms of what he's giving you in terms of tangible production. I mean, he has 2 goals in 64 games last year, and now he's at 2 goals in 4 games. Step in the right direction, I would say. So you are getting scoring. You can give the Bruins stick taps for after that game was 3-0 in the first period. They fought back, made it 3-3, then scored another 2 goals later on to make it a tight game once again. So there are some positives to build off of this one, but you still look at just the number of laps that you had. And it wasn't just it was one D pair that kept on getting targeted or kept on getting hemmed in there. Just what I think every defenseman on the roster today probably is going to look at that film tomorrow or Thursday and want to fast forward through a few of those segments. It was just a lot of simple, smart plays that just weren't there in terms of even like a guy like Strawman, who, maybe give him some benefit of the doubt in terms of it being his first game, but, he has that really costly turnover behind the Bruins net that leads to a goal. You had even Forbert, who's been money for most of these first couple of games, had a bad pinch that led to a odd man rush. I mean, up and down. Clifton, Zaboral, who's kind of really struggled to kind of find his game so far this year, had a few rough shifts. So it's just one of those ones where it seemed like you felt you're building towards a game like this, and maybe the fatigue plays into that. But I mean, you even saw during some of these wins, even like let's say that season opening win against the Capitals, where Bruins score 5 goals, but still had a few of those sequences where guys were activating off the blue line and leading to odd man chances or grade A chances for Washington. Those are sequences that the Bruins are more comfortable in taking, especially under Jim Montgomery's watch. But it's one of those things where you eventually, you keep on kind of pushing the envelope and you play with fire. You're going to have games like this where you're going to get burned with a team like Ottawa, who has a lot of firepower up front. They were motivated coming into this game, home opener. A lot of factors weren't really working in the Bruins' favor in this one. So I don't view this as a game that's like an omen or a sign of things to come, in terms of that the Bruins are going to have to be winning 5-4 or 6-4 or games like this from now until the end of November when, Charlie McAvoy's back, when you get Grizzly back, Brendan Carlo. I don't view this as like kind of that first sign that this is what it's going to be, more than it is maybe just a stock lesson kind of learned from a game like this where, again, Montgomery wants them to be aggressive, to take those opportunities when they arise in the offensive zone. But sometimes it's better to have a game like this where you kind of take your lumps and, view the other side of the coin there in terms of what he's trying to preach. Because if you try to get too aggressive or you try to focus more on pushing the envelope as opposed to kind of your main job in terms of locking things down in the defensive zone and sealing off the net front and making things easier for your goaltender, you're going to have nights like this, especially against a team like Ottawa that, as I said, add a few guys up front and they can really bury you in a hurry if you're lackadaisical in your own zone, which was the case tonight for the Bruins. So definitely a step back for the Bruins. Again, I'm not going to view this as something that's going to be the norm in terms of the Bruins having to score 5 goals and give up 4 goals or what have you. But maybe it's important for the Bruins to have a kind of, gut punch like this where, you're able to take some positives away in terms of being resilient, fighting back, but the details, the defensive responsibilities, those things can't stray away from kind of the main message of what Montgomery's preaching, because if not, you're going to have games like this where put up a good effort, but if your defensive identity is not there up in the NHL ranks, you're going to have games like this where you're going to be chasing quite a bit of the game. So we'll have continued coverage of this game and every game of the Bruins this season over at bostonsportsjournal.com. So please subscribe over there. Thanks, guys.